Hi guys, how are you?
Hello, Rachel.
Hey, Rachel.
Hello. So to start, I think you guys are very brave for putting a child in the magic hour and attempting to film scenes with a child during that. But I wanted to ask you guys, how was it? A lot of the beauty of this movie does come from the lighting that is the natural lighting of outside. How was it figuring out between the two of you how quickly you needed to get something done, what you really needed from scenes, and kind of making it work when a lot of this is shot where it's, 40 minutes before sunset?
Yeah. Adolfo, please.
Well, I think we tried a lot of that in our first movie together, Jockey, and I feel like we just found a way that it feels so smooth for us. And then I think the mission here was just trying to have everybody else on the crew on board, people that we didn't work together before, to come on board on that approach. And I feel like it's just so good when you get to that point, because then you can move so much faster. Actually, like, you don't have a bunch of stuff around, you don't have a bunch of C stands and light that then suddenly you need half an hour to do the reverse shot because you need to move everything around. It's so it kind of like, once you plan enough to be able to pull that off, it makes you move faster, and I feel like you end up having a better result somehow.
It is great. I think going in as a director, I just like always thought about like what's the core of the scene, the emotional core of the scene that we need, and then you're in this place when you're moving very quickly like that with the whole team and everybody's into it. It's like a jazz band
Mm.
and an ensemble, and everybody's bringing in things, and the prop master runs up and is like, "What about this? She could hold this," and then you're following the baby with some chickens, and it just becomes very alive and yeah, really exciting.
It's very fun.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, Clint, because you also co-wrote this. I love that we never get to see Robert get like actually very, very angry because I feel like in movies like this with like grief and things like that, we tend to like let men just become assholes and be angry the entire time, and he's not that way.
Yeah.
How was it allowing his grief to kind of be that like sadness throughout this movie and not have it be in your face and aggressive as we maybe have seen in the past?
It's a good question. It's one of those things that I learned it on short films and like as a young filmmaker. This is not always the case, and sometimes like grief and it takes many different forms.
Mhm.
But I think like that like outpouring of anger and those screaming outbursts is sometimes like the easy way out, of a scene like that. Whereas like it just felt like there was something deeper to explore with this character, and he didn't seem like a guy who would like scream and yell at people. And so yeah, just trying to be true to the character, I think.
Yeah. Well, and Adolfo, I wanted to ask you because obviously, when people think of cinematography, they think about like the picturesque moments of a film. And I love that this literally looks like a picture for throughout the entire run because it is like a little square box that we're watching all this through. How do things like that help you when you're trying to figure out what something is going to look like or whatever your job entails for that scene when you know that it's like, okay, well, audiences are looking at it through a square that's this big and already have this mindset?
Well, the idea was exactly to make it look like you're watching someone's memories, almost like you found that box full of pictures
Mm.
of that person's life, and you're trying to pull, figure out what that person lives somehow. So that's how we came up to that aspect ratio. For example, okay, let's evoke that feeling that you're watching memories. And I feel like that was also helpful for us to be able to capture the trees and like having a taller aspect ratio. So you're really embracing the world around our characters instead of just necessarily expanding them to the sides, but also in a height way. But I feel like it was just like a lot of trying to understand what the character is feeling and also what nature is feeling, and making sure that nature is portrayed as another character in the movie.
Yeah. And for my last question, I want to have fun because it made me think of like who would narrate my life, which I know that's not like a new
Who would
thing
it
with
be,
people.
Rachel?
Well, for me, it'd probably I don't know, like Jeff Bridges. That
Mm,
would fit for me. But I want to know for you guys, have you thought about it after making a movie where it is all, mostly narration, who you would want to tell your story?
no, but that's a great question, and we're thinking about it now. Adolfo, do you have an answer?
It'll have to be someone from Brazil, definitely.
Yeah, yeah,
It'll have to be important. So maybe Wagner Moura. Would be a good
Mm,
that'd be
one.
lovely.
that's
I think
cool.
Will Patton. I was I think he does. I love listening to his voice. He just did a audiobook of Lonesome Dove, and I'm just listening to it now just because I love hearing his voice.
Well, it's beautiful. I love hearing in this movie, and so thank you guys so much for talking with me today. I really
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Rachel.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. To start, I wanted to ask is you have to do a lot of scenes within the magic hour, and they are often calmer scenes. For you as an actor, how was it to bring the calmness of Robert into those scenes where I know like production wise was probably like, hurry up, we only have 20 minutes, the sun is setting, we have to go, we have to go.
Yeah, I'll give you a good example. Actually, there's a scene towards the end of the film with Kerry Condon, which is Magic Hour on a lookout tower, and we shot that scene. We started shooting the scene. The sun was too bright, and the whole crew just sat and we waited for like an hour and a half, and it was all very chilled and calm. And then we knew once we started shooting, we would have, I think it was an hour and a half to shoot the entire scene. And I was like, I really hope that this doesn't feel like you said, the energy on camera is supposed to be very tranquil and very personal and emotional. And that people aren't kind of panicking off screen. It was amazing how the entire energy of the whole set was very calm. And I think that's because Clint, the filmmaker, is very well prepared, and Kerry and I were very well prepared. Um, the whole energy of this shoot was crazy because it was 29 days to shoot the whole thing, and yet it never felt like we were panicked. Maybe that's being in a forest. I don't know, but
The trees calmed everybody.
trees calmed us down. The trees were like good juju.
What I wanted to ask is that I said this to Clint, but I love that this movie doesn't like Robert's not angry because a lot of the times when we're looking at grief, especially male grief, we often see a man lashing out and he's getting angry and he turns into this asshole, and that never happens in this movie. Robert is always calm and sweet. For you as an actor, what's it to get to show that side of like a man's grieving process rather than what we've kind of seen time and time again?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think sometimes we see people who have had the most devastating loss or find out they have the most devastating illness, or they're dying. People's reaction to that in real life is quite often surprising to what we might expect. We've seen it on the news a lot lately, just people losing their children, that just shouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And part of what breaks my heart sometimes is the strange, elevated dignity in which they handle themselves
Mm-hmm.
in the most unbearable of circumstances. I think one of the things that really struck me about Robert is that it reminds me of a good, broader spectrum of masculinity that I was always misled about as a child. The masculinity was all the tough words, and that it didn't make room for some of the softer things. And that anger and violence are one way of reacting to the world, but there's other ways of doing it. Sometimes we feel like someone should be angry and they're not showing it. That they don't. There's a deficit to being really stoic. Is that it's like got all this feeling inside of you, like there's a big jug full of tears that you probably should let out, but you don't. And that was sort of, for me, the focus was about making sure that Robert, in all his purity and dignity, the one flaw in him maybe is that he wished that he could rail against the world a bit more.
Yeah. One for a last question, I want to end on a little lighter note. I asked the other two, I was like, if this made me think of who I would want to narrate my life. And have you thought about who you would want to narrate your life now that you have been in Train Dreams?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. Who would narrate my life? Look, I'd love to hear my dad or my grandfather's voice.
Mm.
I wouldn't outsource it to somebody that wasn't connected to me. That's a great question.
Well, thank you. I love this movie a lot. I think it's so beautiful, both visually stunning and as a film as a whole. And so, thank you so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great one.
You too.